see you in the link.
Okay, and
I can hear you.
and you can hear me. I hope I can hear you. I'll give you a call if I can't. Thank you.
Right. Welcome everybody. Good afternoon. This is our last? Our last info session for this term. And so we've got on Zoom, we've got Andre, Debbie, Helen, and Tyler. And so first up in our agenda, we've got Amy's Road Street Renewal. And if we can ask staff to come forward, please, Barry and Crystal, and others. There we go. Welcome. Yora.
So it's first time here with this board. So quick intro. Kia ora, my name's Nick. I'm the project manager for the Amy's Road Street Renewal. We've recently done some early engagement on the project, and we thought, well, it's early days, we'd come and give you
I can hear it, can't I?
Yes, Helen.
Sorry.
Okay. Mute Helen.
Yeah, thought we'd come check in, get a bit of a steer on where we go next, because as Crystal will get into, the community is a little bit divided on how we should go about this one. Okay. So if we can flick over to the next slide. I don't know. Oh, we've got a clicker. Hooray.
You just need to turn it on at the side.
Come on. Oh, there we go. Perfect. So just a little bit of a signpost for how we're going to go about today. Start with a bit of a project overview just to give some context. Then I'll hand over to Crystal to jump into some early engagement. And then we'll talk through some high-level scheme possibilities that we've drawn up based on the community feedback and the project objectives. And then hopefully get a bit of a steer and some advice from yourselves as to what we do over the next few months. So Amy's Road, I'm sure a lot of us know this area pretty well. We are doing a street renewal that starts just south of the Kiwi Rail level crossing, up near Dressmart and the Hub, and extends down effectively the length of Amy's Road up to the Springs Road intersection at the south end. So, oh, great. Thank you. So we project objectives. As a street renewal, our main objective is to have a look and renew and enhance the transport assets in the corridor. This is the road carriageway, it's the footpath, there's all that old deep dish curb and channel running down each side. So it's looking to kind of pull that out and replace it with the flat channel that we use more often today. Enhancing pedestrian access and safety. So this might look like some crossing points, fixing up the footpath. Review the carriageway width, so make sure it makes sense for the area, use that design speed of sort of 40 to 50 kilometers an hour, and achieve safe system speeds at some of those key conflict points where a lot of our accidents happen. This street, Amy's Road, has been included in the Ōtautahi Christchurch Future Transport Plan as a planned local cycleway. So this is kind of a handy opportunity for us to look at incorporating appropriate cycle facilities. And lastly is implementing CCC tree policy. So if we bring out any trees, that's replacing 2 for every one we pull out where possible, including some opportunities for planting. Then over to Crystal.
Cool. Okay, so for most of our street renewals projects, we are going and doing some early engagement, particularly with the street, so that we can incorporate community feedback in that design from the outset. One of the reasons why we wanted to come and talk to you today is there is definitely a little bit of conflict in the community about what they want to see in the street renewal. But just to start off with, so during the engagement, we got 118 responses. You can see the split there. We did get a number of responses from people who commute rather than live on Amy's Road. So some of the feedback we've split into actually what are the people on the living on the street feel. And then in terms of who we heard from, those are the organisations that we heard from. We've had a couple of meetings with South Hornby School, and their biggest topic is the school crossing, which I'm sure you're aware of. So I'll first talk about the sticking points, and then we can talk about the things that the community definitely agrees on. So the first is cycle facilities. So we had 27 comments that people would like to see some form of cycle infrastructure. And there's a little bit of a breakdown there on what types of cycle infrastructure some people said. Some people said a cycle lane would be good. Some people said a separated cycleway. Some people said shared paths. We also had 31 people, so about the same amount, say that they didn't want to see any cycle infrastructure. In terms of the breakdown here, we do have more people not wanting cycle infrastructure if they live on the street. So out of those 31, 14 lived on the street, whereas out of the 27 who did want cycling infrastructure, 5 lived on the street. So there's a little bit of a split there. But when it comes down to the reasons why people didn't want to see cycle infrastructure, most of the concerns were related to parking removal and concerns about conflict between vehicles and cyclists. So there is potential for mitigating some of the concerns that are raised there. Moving on, so our next sticking point, and I'm sure this won't be a surprise to you as a board, is traffic calming, speed humps, or slower speeds. So we had 14 people ask us to include some kind of traffic calming or raised infrastructure. But out of those 14, 5 lived on the street. 5 asked us to reduce the speed limit. And then we had 8 people ask us to not include any traffic calming or raised features. In that 14 who wanted traffic calming, 5 of them explicitly said a raised feature at the school. This one is not usually a controversial one for street renewals, but Hornby wanted to pull out all the stops. So trees and planting was another one. So we had about equal amounts. 8 wanted to see more trees and planting, and 10 didn't. This one is a bit clearer on whether people live on the street or not. So 5 of the 10 that didn't want to see plantings lived on the street. The main concerns raised about those ones were space, particularly if it was trees versus parking, visibility, so exiting driveways and being blocked by trees, and then mess, so trees dropping leaves and maintenance and the costs associated with that. We had some agreement on some things, which is great. So there was definitely some strong commentary from a lot of submitters around safer crossing, or it being safer in general as a street for the children and families at South Hornby Primary School. There was some suggestions in there around what types of crossing they'd like to see outside the school. And then we also had another 19 comments additional to those asking for more pedestrian crossings on the street. Some of those comments were just general, I'd like to see more pedestrian crossings, and others were quite specific. So the project team has those, so they can have a look at those different sort of areas and look at whether it's appropriate to have any there. Then we've got, apologies for the text dump on the slide, but just some other themes that came up. Obviously, removing the deep dish gutters was a common theme, which is already part of the project objectives. Retaining parking or not removing parking was strong. We also had 2 comments for people saying remove parking in general. These weren't specific comments, they were just take away the parking. So that was interesting. We had some comments for power lines being undergrounded, and most of that was a cosmetic kind of want, but also a space saving thing. improving the street lighting, and there were some of these comments that were about a specific area, widening and upgrading the footpath, improving drainage, again, specific areas that the project team has got those to look into. Next was restricting truck access or encouraging trucks or larger vehicles to use better routes. Obviously, the resealing of the road, and there was some commentary there around the vibrations that the road surface causes for housing. Comments around bus stops and upgrading those. And then there was some locations where people specifically asked for no stopping restrictions. Most of these were where people had illustrated a conflict sort of outside their driveway, or where vehicles turn and those sorts of things. So most of those are very specific locations that we can definitely look into. I think that's me. So I'll pass it back to you guys.
So based on the feedback, we've come up with 3 initial scheme possibilities, just at a high level, to give you all an indication of what we might be able to do. One of the factors that's been a bit of a constraint for us so far is those existing poles. They are typically Chorus comms poles. They own them, and some of them have the Orion power infrastructure on them as well. But in short, it means that we are currently spatially constrained if we don't move the poles, which can be a rather expensive endeavour. So here, first we thought we'd present our sort of bog standard do minimum street renewal. This allows for parking on both sides of the street, the 2 lanes of traffic, and also a painted median up the middle of the road. This gives us space to put some pedestrian refuge islands at various spots throughout the street, or when cars are looking to turn right by streets, it gives them space to move out of the main flow of traffic. Option 2 is one that ticks a couple more of our project objectives through the cycle lanes. As you can see, this given the 2 cycle lanes, we have room for parking on one side of the street and a small painted median as we have a buffer between those parks and the cycle lane. We are looking at options to try to put some indented parking bays in, just to try to mitigate some of that parking loss, because we've seen that was quite a strong theme from the community, is trying to retain some of that parking. But it is initially looking that we'd have to remove about half the parking in order to put both cycle lanes on.
Can you just clarify with this option, if there's one side only parking, is the other side going to be yellow lines?
Yes.
The whole length of?
It would alternate side to side, but in short, yes, there would be likely one side would have dotted yellow lines for no parking on one side.
What do you mean alternate side to side?
So you have some sections of the street on the west side.
Yeah.
And then some sections on the east side, so it's kind of a
So
With parking, so
Yeah.
it's not the whole side, no parking. So it will be,
it would sort of
okay,
move
Zigzag.
zigzag
Yeah.
left to right throughout the length of the street.
but it wouldn't affect the alignment of driving.
because the heading of
Okay.
option 2 is parking on one side is misleading.
Yeah.
Right, okay, thanks.
And then our third option, this is looking to relocate or underground the power and comms poles on that side of Amy's Road, which is the opposite side to the school and the Hope Church. And then that would give us the additional space we would need to fit both cycle lanes and the 2 sides of parking throughout the length of the road. Often the undergrounding or relocating of these power poles can be prohibitively expensive, but we've reached out to Chorus and Orion, and we think it would be, our current estimate is that it would be about $1 million to underground poles and power and the comms on one side of the road. There's not a lot of connections left to the Chorus infrastructure, so theirs is not a large chunk of the cost, just sort of dealing with the power lines and getting all those overheads that cross Amy's Road under the ground. That would be the bulk of the cost in that $1 million figure.
Is it cost to council?
It would be a cost to the project, yes. So we, at the start of the project, we reached out to Orion and said, in your upcoming overhead to underground program, is Amy's Road on the list? And we had a very quick no, that's not currently a planned street for us. So we would need to take that on as a project cost if we were going to do that. I went to the school with Ashley Beaton, one of our community travel advisors, earlier this week. And met with Wendy, the principal there. They indicated that option 3 with moving the poles would be their preference if at all financially viable. And then between options 1 and 2, very, very torn, because their sort of 3 key things they want to see from this are of course, the improvement of the crossing outside the front of their school. They also want some options for the kids and the families to be able to get to school with their bikes or by walking, and also being able to maintain some of the parking to give people a place to drop off their kids that do need to commute by vehicle. I think that's the last of the slides. So just sort of recap what we're looking to get from you today is a bit of a steer as to what we should develop further over the next couple of months, so that early in the next term after the elections, we can come back and look to go back to the community with an option or 2 and see what their thoughts are, and get sort of a scheme approval decision going. Just means that we can keep the ball rolling on our end while the election is progressing, bring some meaningful progress early next term.
All right. Thank you, Nick, Barry, and Crystal. We've got questions now from board members, Mark, Henk, and then Sarah and Luke. Mark, go ahead, please.
Very good. I've got a bit of a list here, so excuse me.
You might tick up some of mine list.
One of the first things that's my mind is seeing as how we're doing the entire length of Amy's. How does it tie in with the Amy's Springs Awatea? Are we going to look at dovetailing to get those done around the same time, do them together, rather than doing one and then doing the other later?
In an ideal world, if the funding for the infrastructure, wrong word, intersection project is gained in sort of the upcoming annual or long-term plan, then yes, we'd look to construct them together to try to get some efficiencies. I've also talked to Katie about how we tie in to one another, and if there were some significant delays, we'd look to fix the infamous dip at the Amy's Springs intersection as part of this, and see how we could improve the pedestrian crossing at that end too.
Well, you can rest assured that I will be doing everything I can to get through the annual plan to get an extra for those intersections, because we just, the community is saying do it all, do it once. It's not muck around. So, has there been any consideration of perhaps widening the footpaths, taking away the grass berm and doing shared paths on both sides rather than cycle infrastructure on the road?
Yes, there has, and I understand that that we have got that as a potential cross section, but we rule that out as a relatively inferior facility for cyclists because of the number of entranceways into all the residential properties along there will put the cyclists at significant safety risk on that route, and there will be a lot of you wouldn't achieve a generous shared path width, so you continually have a conflict between pedestrians as well, because ideally it would need to be a relatively wide.
And the other thing that I've heard quite strongly from the community where I've spoken to them is, when we're doing this, wisdom says, for goodness sake, find a way of doing the undergrounding. It's ludicrous to leave those massive poles taking up a lot of the space there and try and work around them. So again, that's another battle we need to have in securing budget for that. Something that I'm certainly up for. If there could be some option that gives the community the option of saying, look, if we underground the poles, we get X more room. This is what it could look like.
Yeah, and that's why we're sort of pointing, I think, towards option 3 as being an ideal combination of meeting of those objectives, and that undergrounds one side of the road. And it's potentially viable from what we're explaining. That it's a pleasant surprise that I wasn't quite as ludicrous a possibility at all, so that could be affordable.
But certainly, even the other side, underground that power, that's something that has certainly come quite strongly from what I've interacted with the community on. And it would be good for us to have that as perhaps an option to throw at the community when we go back to them.
Yeah, we can definitely go back to them and ask for a cost to do both sides, just the one.
Yep. Talking about crossing at the school, certainly heard that a lot. It's not just the school that want it. There's elderly folks in the community that want it as well. Interesting that signalised option come into that. If that was to look at being a signalised crossing, would it be sensible to perhaps look at the Branston Street intersection and say signalise that, and given the crossing point that's signalised at that Branston Street crossing point, rather than just having one sort of offset like we do down Hay Road and Woodley Road. They're sort of offset.
You meaning sort of include a crossing facility within that signal intersection, you mean, rather than two separate?
Yeah, well, rather than just looking at a single signalised crossing just for pedestrians,
right,
that would only be done by actuation. Perhaps look at the whole intersection at Branston Street, because that's seen as quite a troublesome intersection with lots of trucks coming out of it as well. And I guess in that, there's always noise in the community about signalising the Halswell Junction Road in Branston Street. So it's the other end of Branston Street. So the trucks then could viably use that to get out and head up towards the state highway. So just a few thoughts that, these are ideas that are coming out of the community outside of this process that might help to reroute some of the traffic away from the Amy's Road.
It may be good to consider that with network planning, because the flip side to putting signals may make it easier for trucks and make it more attractive for them to turn, which could be an unintended consequence.
Yes.
So that would be something for network planning to provide some advice on.
And that's where perhaps the signal at the other end on Halswell Junction Road to give them a viable way to get out.
Yes.
Onto Halswell Junction might be the way to relieve that pressure. And then you're going to have your exhibitor outside the school. It might be cheaper and easier for the street renewal.
They take that.
Yeah. And something else that I've had some noise in the community about is there's some of the deep dish channel is very full of weeds and overgrown at the moment, and they put a few tickets in to get it cleaned or repaired, but they've had some pushback, I understand, saying, look, we've got the renewal coming, so we're not going to do anything about it just now. But I would be keen if we can find a way to work with maintenance and say, look, can we, in the interim, until we get this street renewal happening, which is likely to be, I'll be picking 2 or 3 years, could we look and get that maintenance actually clear the deep dish? And if it needs to be a quick patch on to keep it going for a few more years, let's get it so it does its job properly in the interim. That would be super handy. But otherwise, looking at the options there, my preference is probably leaning towards the option 3. And yeah, the least parking we can lose off that road, the better, because we've got an intensification coming into that spot. It's already landed, and you probably know the increased parking that's happening because of this multi-unit developments that are there already. To lose more parking down there, I think would be just crazy. So yeah, to me, option 3 would be probably the one. And then certainly those other options of underground lights. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Just before we proceed, just because I think Luke doesn't have a nameplate there, so that's Luke Chandler.
Oh, hi, Luke. I couldn't find it.
So for those of you who don't know Luke, yeah, that's right. Okay. So we got Hank next, and then Sarah, and then Luke.
There's a couple of points. One is voice my disappointment at the amount of people that responded to your call for help. You know, if it
Consultation.
yeah, I mean, there's over 200 people live on the street, and every one of them will have an opinion, and you managed to get a response from 30 of them. I'm not saying that against you. I'm just saying that's difficult to make a decision on that.
It's our job as elected members as well, I think.
Sorry?
It's our job as elected members to get that feedback as well, not just staff.
Yeah, sure, sure. But I'm just saying that feedback is disappointing, and particularly disappointing is the amount of feedback from the hundreds of people who actually use the road. You've got very, very few responses, and I think we need to get them a bit more involved before you start digging the road up. You get a stack of responses once you start putting a spade in it. Trust me.
Yeah, I think just to that point, it is difficult for people to make submissions on conceptual projects. The flyer that went into people's letterboxes was, we're renewing the street,
Yep.
Tell us if there's anything you want to see. So some people might have thought, actually, I'll wait until they have a plan and
Sure.
I'll provide feedback
Sure.
on it. So
Yep.
we'll still definitely do a consultation round with this once
Okay.
we've got a draft plan for you to make a decision on. And I expect we'll
Yep.
probably get some decent feedback from there.
Okay. And the other thing is, I'd find it difficult to see or to agree to anything which cut down the numbers of on-street parking when a lot of the buildings being put up now encourage on-street parking by not providing on-street or off-street parking. So there's no parking on by the units. They have to park their cars somewhere.
Or even if there are units that have a garage, they only have one, and there's like 3 cars.
Yeah.
So they're all.
Yeah. So it makes it very difficult. A question on your cycleways. You've got a line drawn. Is that just a painted line?
Yeah, it would be.
So they're all just painted lines.
Yeah, so it would be
Okay, so
painted
there's
with
no-
the green surface.
There's no raised. But
There wouldn't be enough space for it.
No, well, that was my next comment. That we were going to. Yeah.
But one of the things that started this process was down the lines of that we tried to just fit it on doing a reasonable and put them like we lived down Shands Road, and there wasn't enough room because of the deep dish.
Yeah.
The extra width from the deep dish makes a big difference.
How do we discourage trucks from using it? Because that's one of the big problems once you start, and particularly around the schools, once you start putting speed bumps in, trucks become incredibly noisy. So I'm not sure how to do that, but if we are talking about speed bumps, then we need to find a way of discouraging trucks. And around Hornby, that's an incredibly difficult task. That's not that's not something that we can decide on. It is actually tricky. It is difficult.
I think that Halls Junction Road, Branston Street, if we look with network planning towards getting that signalised, that would help a lot. Because the trucks use Amy's Road, but they can't get out Horsell Junction Road end. So they have to come up Amy's to get up to where they need to get to.
In the northwest, Amy's Road in the northwest, is rolling that northwest connection is really strong too. And I think there is an irony in that if the level of service is reduced for trucks, they will find it less able to use it. So similar to what I was mentioning to Councillor Peters. So for instance, if Branston Street was signalised, it could paradoxically make it easier and we get more trucks on it. So if a road is less suitable for heavy vehicles, they do tend to be discouraged. Usually that is through congestion, difficulty turning, raised features, potentially narrow curb lines and having difficulty turning. But yeah, that really needs to be balanced with actually what the role of the road is, which is to carry traffic.
That's right.
And also given that its neighbours are mixed use, residential and industrial. So there will always be a desire for those heavy vehicles to access it.
You're not going to wipe them out, that's for real.
No.
And you're not going to stop them doing it.
Yeah.
And there's no, but I'm just saying that if we're going to encourage, if there's going to be a large use by heavy traffic on the road, we have to be very wary about the cycle lanes and the widths, and because otherwise it's going to make it difficult for everybody. And if you're going to put speed bumps and trucks don't mix. They do slow the traffic down, but they're not a good mix for all that.
Right.
And the other, sorry,
I'm conscious about the time. They've got 2 minutes left, or 1 minute now.
Yeah.
We've got 2 more people wanting to ask questions.
Your speed limit says 40 or 50 kilometres per hour. Is that an option? Or is that a,
Yeah, so that's operating speed rather than speed limit. So
Okay.
that's just the speed
That's fine.
we would like to see.
in which case my option would be option 3 rather than even looking at the others really.
Sure.
Right, thank you. We've got 1 minute left, so I hope we've got very quick questions from Sarah and then Luke.
I can't guarantee it, but I'll try. The other themes in the consultation, were they suggested as a list or were they ideas that people just had themselves?
Yeah, they were just ideas people had themselves, so we didn't provide any scope for the feedback. It was just a text box.
Okay. We've been pushing for a Hornby master plan, and I just wonder what the implication of not having a master plan is when we're doing something like this. I don't fully understand, all of it, but what are your thoughts on that?
I'm not sure if the Hornby master plan is the same thing as the Hornby local area plan, which I know is in the works of planning. If it is the same thing, the project team for that is working on perhaps coming to the board after elections to give you an update on where things are at. And there might be some opportunity for early engagement on that project, but it is a 2 to 3 year sort of program.
So how's this different? How does this not fall within?
Well, the local area plan is about planning for Hornby as a whole. So it covers everything from, how transport operates to what kind of district planning limitations there might be in certain areas and intensification and all those kind of things. So it's an all-encompassing. I don't know enough of the detail to speak to it, but I don't think it would go down to the level of,
Okay.
so this is what Amy's Road would be.
Implementing this won't change any impact on that.
And
Okay.
there's other plans that this is drawing from. So
Okay.
I can jump in and it's the street renewal program is like a citywide thing where they go and check the state of the road carriageway, the footpaths and the curb and channel. And so for streets like Amy's Road to come up, it means that someone's gone and taken a look and said this is stuffed and needs work to be done.
Okay. Likelihood of securing the $1 million to get the poles?
Where our next step would be to go and do some pavement investigations to see about the coal tar contamination in the area, because that would probably be the two competing big sums of money to see. Honestly, I thought the number that was going to come back was going to be a lot bigger to underground the one side of the road. So it's we'd need to confirm what other factors are at play, but currently we're optimistic.
Okay, and what's proposed outside the school hasn't been confirmed yet. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. Luke, very quickly.
Chorus, obviously they're disestablishing their copy network. Is there an opportunity that we can go to them to go, a core of what it's going to cost for you to underground? Can you just discontinue your copper assets along the road?
So the quote from Chorus was basically just pull out all the poles and everything and keep the one connection to the one person that's still in line with that network. So a lot of it is just
what impacts do we have with Kiwi Rail further up at the corner of Shands and Amy's Road?
We've so the scope of the project has been stopped just south of the level crossing.
So we're not going to be built by Kiwi Rail this time?
Correct.
Right. Are we able to consult with some of the commercial users of this area to see what their views are and what improvements could be made elsewhere for them to use other avenues other than Amy's Road? Could we do that part of this consultation?
yes, we have definitely discussed as a project team whether we needed to look at consulting with the more sort of industrial and freight users. So that is probably something we can do before we develop a scheme design.
Cool. And are we working with ECAN at all to see what public transport services they might want to establish along this route? Because I'm aware that the number 5 used to go along Amy's Road at some point in the past. And obviously before we do anything, consulting with them if they have something in their long-term plan around establishing services.
So at this, when we initiate a project like this, there's a big broadcast email that goes out about council and a couple of other places, and ECAN came back to that and sort of said just keep us in the loop as you progress, and we'll sort of let you know what we want to see out of it too.
Awesome. And 2 last questions. I'm aware that there's probably 24 new dwellings coming on Amy's Road, and another 24 on Tower Street. taking into consideration the flow and effect from parking that people might have around there, is that something we can look at finally with having residents parking permits and time parking along parts of the road. So residents that already live there are not going to then have to rush home an hour early to find a park, to, you know, the rat race to find a park with these new developments that are going in.
That's part of a citywide consideration. But what I would say though, in this particular case, the conflict is not so much between workers and residents, but residents and residents.
Correct.
So quite a different scenario to say around Riccarton Mall, where there have been current requests for exemptions.
So that's so this is kind of what I'm alluding to. So we're not having someone going into a 1-bedroom Williams Court flat with 5 cars. We've seen it in areas, Barry, you might be aware, with Awatea Green Gardens, whatever it is, where the yellow lines went in. We had one resident there in a 2-bedroom house with 5 cars, setting a very clear expectation from us as a community board that you will be given 1 or 2 parks and the rest are timed.
I think council can't guarantee parking outside any property.
No, of course
whether
not.
it
But
be commercial or residential. And from my understanding of the council's policies, there is no intent to provide for every possible demand that could exist. And you're quite right. There's some properties may have 4 bedrooms and they may have 8 cars. They may have 6 cars. I also think it's probably outside the scope of this project to have to provide for the whole demand.
yeah, I guess I'm just trying to weigh up on this road. We obviously hear from residents that they want to keep their parking, and that's fine. But we do have these new developments going in. That's going to obviously add strain for residents to find parks, but also people that buy in these dwellings knowing, okay, you're going to get 1 park on the street. It's not a guarantee that you're going to get that park, but you're not going to get 4 permit parks for your 1-bedroom house, and setting an expectation very clear that the rest of the residents then have fair use of the street as well. That's kind of where that view comes from, I guess. But is that something that we can at least look into?
It's out, to be fair, so it's outside this project. It's a far broader issue, and this scenario is quite different than, say, Central City versus Riccarton versus suburban residential versus suburban residential. But I think it'd be my advice is it's not something we can consider as part of this. Not in isolation. It would be problematic.
Okay.
To say the least.
Yeah, we understand that. Okay, thank you. So I note that this is not a voting matter, but this staff is requesting direction from the community board. Around the table, what I'm hearing, correct me if I'm wrong, is we're looking at option 3. Is that what's coming up? People on Zoom, do you have any views? I think the feeling here is around option 3. Anybody on Zoom wants to speak up?
No, I hold no view yet.
Tyler, okay. Right, Debbie?
I don't think an option is there that I'd be looking at. I'd like to preserve as much as possible of parking and keep as much width of the road as possible, because, as has been mentioned before, it is highly utilised a lot by trucks, etc. So
still sounds like option 3, Debbie.
Still says an option 3.
Yep.
Yeah, but you're getting rid of a lot of parking. You're getting rid of a lot.
No parking's going under this plan.
Okay, it's all staying.
Parking's retained.
Parking staying.
Both sides.
Option 3 on both sides of the road.
So everyone gets everything under this plan. We get people that can cycle, we get people that can park on both sides of the road, and we get cars
the cycleway on option 3 is on both sides, right?
Yes, and parking.
So I'm just thinking of Sparks Road and how we have something similar, but they've got a dual on one side for the cycleway, which allows the road to be a little bit wider and therefore parking on one side.
No, this is parking on both sides.
With the option to relocate the poles.
Yes.
Option three.
Right, option 3. Right, so, anybody else on Zoom? No, we're all good because, we're running out of time. You're happy with that?
Delighted.
All right, okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. We move on to the next. We've got waste policies, free waste dumping, litter and illegal dumping. Welcome to Olivia, Tanya and Alec. And right, okay. And we've got 30 minutes.
Lovely. So,
Right.
Olivia, and I'm here with Tanya. Oh, Alex.
Hello, Tanya.
Tanya couldn't make it in this evening. Geez. So we did prepare a slide deck with some questions for you guys.
Smoking yet?
I've got a different case to you guys.
Oh, yeah, makes us look silly.
Exciting.
So we're currently in the process of reviewing our free waste dumping policy. And as part of that, we're also looking to introduce a litter and illegal dumping policy as well. And so while that's in the draft stage, we're just wanting some feedback about what you guys are currently dealing with or experiencing when it comes to litter and illegal dumping. We just want to reflect your experiences as best as possible in the policies.
Yep.
So we do just have some questions to run through.
I believe Riccarton and Hornby are having issues on this.
Yep.
Cool. So what are the issues you guys currently experiencing when dealing with litter and illegal dumping in particular?
So you want to hear from?
Yeah.
Okay, we start with Luke and anybody who else wants to? Mark?
So,
And anybody and Ayla, I've got Hank. Anybody else on Zoom wants to, other than Tyler? Okay, so I've got Luke, Mark, Tyler, and then Hank. Go ahead, please, Luke.
Great, thank you guys. I guess one of the big areas for us is Brockworth Place. We hear a lot of reports of students moving out, leaving couches, mattresses, etc. on the side of the road. Around university flats as well, in Ilam Road area, Upper Riccarton. I'm at the other end of the Riccarton ward, and I had people dumping boxes of bits and pieces in Sockburn Park. Most recently was a old council recycling bin that was filled with lime scooter parts that had been ripped apart and dumped behind a council water facility. Don't know why. But yeah, the biggest thing is students, I think, in our area. End of tenancies, a lot don't drive, have the facility to take things to the dump. So yeah, really working with UCSA and other universities such as Lincoln to help facilitate community days where we can maybe pick up their rubbish at an end of a tenancy. Yeah. Thank you.
Oh, Mark?
I guess there's the archetypical Roberts Road, although we do seem to have, touched wood, got over that one by putting in the surveillance and the illegal dumping signs, but it still crops up from time to time.
Is it the meat?
Oh, the meat's long and well done.
Yeah, that's right.
We had that interesting one, the meat's being dumped in them.
Yeah.
I think there was some movement on that one. I've also get some interesting noises around the Barters Road, sort of Haskets Road area as well, where on sort of the continuation of Barters Road, it's almost an unformed piece of road. It's sort of a metal road down the side of Waipuna, and at sort of the end of that, they tend to stuff dumped down there. And some of the rural residents raise it with time to time, where there's a sort of a dead end road, they'll often succumb to illegal dumping. And then, of course, there's the typical illegal dumping outside people's properties where they've got an old mattress or a bookcase or different household things. I often get a number of items dumped at Branston Park on Witham Street. People, for some reason, see that as a dumping site. And somewhere, okay, you put it there, somebody will take it away. So the idea of having some form of inorganic collection at targeted times of the year might be useful, or as a more handy community station where people can say, right, I don't know, use Amy's Road as an example, or Branston Street, where you could go to a site and then, okay, I don't want this, I'll just leave it there, and then we can deal with it at a targeted site rather than it being scattered in the suburbs. It could be quite handy. So that's, my sort of 2 cents worth. And those out there in TV land, if you see any illegal dumping, snap in, solve it. At least we know it's happening, and we can have a chance of cleaning it up, and then we can target any free waste around those sort of reports.
Right. Thank you, Mark. Tyler, please go ahead.
Kia ora, guys. Sorry I couldn't be there in person today. I planned on doing it. For Riccarton, the issues we currently experience is particularly in the central Riccarton area, there's both litter and fly tipping quite significantly. There's been a lot of reports, particularly with not only our graffiti snapshot, but our waste. So we see it continually being the highest part in the Riccarton ward in terms of waste. Even just last month, there was at 179 reported incidences. But the things I'm noticing too is maybe actually holding those fast food outlets consents to account, because outside KFC, you see quite a lot of KFC wrappers in the off-street car parks. And there is a reasonable amount of rubbish bins either being taken out or not in the areas where there are hotspots. There was a retirement village recently, which I've solved, in installing a rubbish bin along the hospitality area north of Riccarton Road, where the Korean joints are. So I think, personally, holding those who have consents to account in regards to their own waste from their customers. And in the fly tipping space, I've been working with UC quite a lot on this stuff. And a lot of the pilot projects actually haven't turned out to be very good, because one time there was a furniture recycling initiative which was done in my first year, and it was also done prior to my term, where it was so popular that they were over capacity in terms of recycling the furniture, to the point where the UC actually had to get containers to backfill old students' furniture. They came with trailers and trailers full. So I think we need to start thinking a bit more with a bit more agility, not just working with UC and Eco Central and Eco Drop. I think we need to find other ways to be able to alleviate the issues.
Often nothing wrong with the stuff that they want to dump too, so it can be reused by someone.
Yeah. The problem is, there's an excess of it, which hopefully we can figure out a way on how to get rid of it.
Anything more, Tyler?
No, that's it. Those are the issues that we're experiencing, but there is significant uptick in both semester 1 and semester 2 in the July months and the December months after UC and Lincoln have finished up. Lincoln used the upper Riccarton area quite significantly, and UC mainly used the Island area. We're talking about hotspots such as down literally right around the border of UC is quite significantly used. And there's an equivalent to Castle Street in Riccarton. It's on the top of my head too. Roundtree Street. Roundtree Street is quite a significant hotspot for fly tipping. And just general waste and litter, obviously, with all the parties that go on in the area.
All right. All good, Tyler?
Yep, all good, thanks.
Thank you. Hank?
Yep. Waterloo Road follows railway line in parts, and although it's been good lately because they've been building a cycleway, and those guys have kept an eye on the rubbish, because of the low trees and shrubs that they put there, people tend to think it's a great place to put, particularly a bit of hard fill from time to time. And that takes a long time to clear. The council sends a truck along there reasonably regular. And that takes care of all the stuff you can lift off and put on the back of a truck. But some of the hard fill can stay there for quite a while. And it's a bit of it can be a bit of a pain. But yeah, that's it.
Right. Cool. Okay. Thank you. Move on to the next question. So how does your board, I think we've touched on it a bit, but how do you guys currently engage with the wider network to deal with the litter and illegal dumping? Is it mainly through SNAPs and SOL?
Yeah, by and large.
Mm.
I know myself.
Then so or we tell our governance team.
And like we just were at a community patrol meeting, and they were really good to chat to and hear their perspective around what's happening as well.
No, I'll often go and do a little pick up in a park, and you'd be surprised what you find hiding in the gardens around the edges of parks. And I know there's a clean-up week coming up. We'll keep Christchurch beautiful. I think you're looking at the idea of doing a couple of local parks and get it to the out or give it a blitz.
Yeah, so following on also from what Sarah said, so there's the Hornby Community Patrol, there's Riccarton. There's also the the new Halswell Community Patrol, so they might know of some hotspots that we don't know, we're not aware of in Halswell, because it's basically a new patrol. They might be able to pick up some spots that we're not aware of.
Yep. There's certainly one, I think, missing bin in Hornby, particularly around McDonald's. There used to be a rubbish bin there when people get to McDonald's takeaways, sit in the end of the park. There is no bin there now. You've got to go all the way up to the rugby club. Big belly, which doesn't get done. So people don't tend to do it. They tend to just leave it there. So whether that's something we could work with the parks team and say, look, one or two more targeted bins in the parks might be useful just to you find the hot spot, let's stick a bin.
Very odd concept, just throwing your rubbish out of your hands. I just can't understand why people do it.
It's just laziness.
Right, so we're finished with the second question. Nothing more to add. Move on to the next.
That was good feeling.
Awesome. So would you guys like to have more control over which groups in your community are funded to deal with litter and illegal dumping?
Yeah.
Yes.
That's a big yes.
Can I just ask who is funded currently?
I was going to ask you that. Yep.
Hypothetically, if there were to be funding available.
Oh, so there's not any at the moment.
Keep Christchurch Beautiful is one. They sort of been through the strengthening communities at Metro.
Oh, sure.
And I mean, I've always wondered whether there's something we could do with service clubs around neighbourhoods to say, local line, the local for the local church group might want to adopt a park, and we could base funding to buy the figures, the clubs, so that we could help empower them to be part of the solution and look after their own little patch. That's something we could perhaps look at as a proactive way of attacking it.
So I guess that sort of means that having more control means perhaps the funding of the different groups.
Yeah, if you're aware of who's active in your community, and the barrier at the moment is funding, quite often the community groups raise the funds to pay for their part-time staff rather than for paying for the services, whatever. And then obviously the free waste dumping would align to that as well. But yeah, it's trying to, in a bygone era, council used to fund Keep Christchurch Beautiful, and then there was changes and that was taken away. But they haven't gone away, and they're still an integral part of the response. So,
just thinking about that, I mean, I think Sarah, you're on Keep Christchurch Beautiful as well on behalf of the board and on their Harbour Council. Is there any thought or possibility of them becoming more like the graffiti unit inside council, where there's sort of the litter Keep Christchurch Beautiful team actually embedded in the council?
Yeah, there's a couple of ideas that we would float to council, mainly through the waste planning rather than just these bylaws. But one of them is you could create a litter team that is directed to just go to the hotspots. What they do is they build up intelligence of what's going on in the community. They know where the hotspots are, and then they can interact with other service providers, parks and roads and all the rest of it. So that's one option. But also linked to that would be the connection to the community groups, so that at the end of the day, that there's multiple responses. If it's just a service response, you get the archetypical things you've described. So some people will say, well, the bin's overflowing, that's a problem, let's remove the bin. Then the logic is that pack it in, pack it out. All that does is displace it to somewhere else in the community, because the rubbish is still there. So it's some of this is reversing it back to a bit of a bygone era, but it's making it more community focused. And in your particular case, you've got the bulk of the student population. So it needs to be a targeted campaign to, rather than just fighting it on principle, just turn around and say, let's do the trials with them. Let's figure out what, can we do discount vouchers or something at the transfer station? Because they've got the ability to mobilise and get the stuff there, whereas another community maybe doesn't have the transport, can't, so they need a different form of service. So that's what this sort of fact find is about, so that we can just tailor the approach. There'll be a core approach across the community boards, but there'll be some nuanced thing that reflect the big thing that's going on in your area. So in your case, it'll probably be the students. But that's got to go in front of the big table and back in the building on Erva Street. I convince them of the need of it.
I wonder what the universities say. Is there ability to work with UC and see whether there could be a Keep UC Beautiful club put on campus, and we could interact with them to help them land that as a concept.
Yeah, I understand Tyler wants to add something, so if we let
all I would say on that is I don't think there's any lack of volunteerism that's out there. It's how we coordinate it and put it to the most effective use. And that will involve a little bit of funding that we'll need to just put into the system, but we're not proposing to take on everything and deliver core services. We just want to acknowledge what the community is doing, has been doing, is capable of, and that will call down some funding.
We'll hear from Tyler.
Sorry, I didn't know you were there, mate. Thanks. Good to see you. I actually put this up as an amendment in the annual plan in 2023-24 by trying to work with these. And it's so nice to see that you actually, because I think I lost that. It's so nice to see you actually doing this, because the staff recommendation back in the day was, what about health and safety? What about this? What about that? And I'm seeing that you're being a bit more proactive on it. So I just wanted to give a shout out to you, mate. So there already is quite a significant amount of UC clubs that are already there and established, like EnviroSoc, Gen Zero, but the big one is the SVA, Student Volunteer Army. Those are the kinds of organizations which could actually mandate that. At the same time, the UC Students Association were the ones to actually co-pilot it with UC prior to my term. And the things that I've noticed and the things that I thought about particularly were around how do we, first of all, alleviate those health and safety issues? Because say, for example, there's some fly tipping issues and there's some needles in the bags, for example. What does that mean for our community if we're paying a community group to take on that risk and that burden? What does that mean if, for example, they unfortunately get hurt by something, broken glass, this, that? Those are the big questions that I'd love to sort of acknowledge before we do that. But I do want to empower the community to be able to do that, because at the moment, in my opinion, I do know that there are certain policy requirements and internal processes which you go through to hold off on picking up fly tipping straight away, because otherwise it'll set a really bad precedent, to actually think that people could just throw stuff out on the street and we'll pick it up straight away. I do want to acknowledge that too. I would love to see how we could work with those organizations like Student Volunteer Army, who are well established and who I'd probably put in as a tier 1. I'd probably have a tier level for community groups, just like we do for funding applications. And in my opinion, Student Volunteer Army would be classed as a tier 1 organization, where they have all of their health and safety protocols underway. They know what to do because they worked with the earthquake. They had more than 40,000 volunteer hours over a space of God knows how many weeks. So delving into that a little bit more would be fantastic. And for us to be able to understand what that's like. So when it comes to us at the table, if it does, we know that they're tier 1, tier 2, tier 3. These are the kinds of things they're allowed to pick up. This is where we'd like to alleviate the issues. And these are the people who actually need to do a little bit more work in the health and safety space. If that makes sense to you, Alec, it's sort of where I'm coming from, just to be pragmatic governors of council money. I think it'd be really valuable to see the sort of tier levels to be able to see, can they do the same job as City Care, and can they also take on that burden of all of those fly tipping and litter issues? On top of that, could there also be other ways for them to be able to contribute with recycling those things with EcoCentral, dropping off and dumping things? Yeah, as you can tell, I'm really passionate about this stuff. So those are just the things that I thought about.
All right. Thank you very much, Tyler. We move on to the next question.
Cool. And our final question.
Final question.
Anything else we should know about litter and illegal dumping in your ward area?
Andre.
Thank you. Mine's more questions for staff. Can I ask those now?
Yep, you go ahead.
Cool. Hey, do we have any signage available which basically reads something along the lines of no illegal dumping in this area, maximum fine $20,000, surveillance and operation? Do we have any strongly worded signage along those lines in our position?
Yeah, we've workshopped with compliance as well, so they're providing input as to what the limitations are as to what they can do. Signage is obviously one of them. The Litter Act and the Waste Minimisation Act is actually under review just now by the government, and they're thinking of lifting the fines. So that signage, that standardised signage can be made available. We also met with the charity sector yesterday, and we agreed a similar approach there. If they all had the one signage, the same livery, the same common message, then it'll have an impact that you couldn't determine or predict what that would be. But certainly if it was there and made people aware, then that's the first thing the compliance officer can draw attention to and start to build a case.
Yeah, I don't think standardised signage is necessarily going to fix the issue. Like what our council doesn't do is put strongly worded signage anywhere about anything. So we don't do effective signage. We just never have. And I guess the time is probably now to try something a bit different, a bit new, and a bit more proactive, because all we've spoken about today is very reactionary. Whereas we've got no clear signage up anywhere telling anyone that actually the maximum fine's 20 grand if someone's prosecuted for littering. We've got no signage telling anyone of that, and we've got no signage around this area's in surveillance. Doesn't mean there's a camera there, but we can still put that places, because someone drives past once a month, that's still a form of surveillance. And that will just help deter people from doing it in these areas over and over and over again. So yeah, I guess my question is, so can we make that signage? Because waiting for someone else to come up with some sort of signage, it doesn't sound like the answer to me. We can just make it right now.
Andre, can I suggest you go for a drive down Roberts Road? Because we have got that signage there as well as the cameras. It seems to be keeping it pretty clear.
Yeah.
So we do have that signage in our position?
Yes. Yeah.
Great. So can we roll that out in a heap of other areas?
Sure we can.
How many prosecutions have we had for fly tipping? Just out of
Probably,
curiosity.
Probably bugger all, but the signage will still help deter.
But I'm wondering if it's bugger all, people are going to go, eh.
So does that signage mention the $20,000 maximum penalty?
I think it's 5,000.
It will refer to whatever the legislation says. So we can find out from compliance and get some examples of that.
Yeah, that'd be good. But I guess what I'm suggesting is we can still put signage up saying surveillance in operation, regardless on if there's a camera there or not. That will help.
We might move the cameras around, right?
Because surveillance doesn't necessarily mean a camera. If someone goes past once a month for a look, it's under surveillance. So you could still put that signage up in more areas without relying on a camera that we don't necessarily have funding for. Just one more point on missing bins. Yeah, Halswell Domain is a classic. They went from a number of bins to one big belly bin. Sure enough, there's heaps of litter on the Halswell Road side. So yeah, that's a really key area. That's been a real problem since the bins got removed. Just another thing I'd like to know if council can start doing is basically publicly shaming people. We've got all of this video footage of people dumping on the side of the road and everything. Why is our council not sharing it on our social media pages, calling out this behaviour? The time has come. Public shaming actually works. So we've got the footage, but we don't do anything with it. So I think we should.
Just Andre, the signage that we have, it does show no dumping, fine $5,000.
Yeah.
Offenders will be prosecuted.
So that to
Area
me
is
is
monitored.
the perfect sign, but it should also say surveillance and operation.
It says area is monitored. Yeah.
Yeah, change the word to surveillance would be my advice on that one. But no,
Strong
genuine question on the public shaming. We've got all sorts of footage of people illegally dumping stuff on our roads. Why does council not share it through our social media channels, calling out this kind of behaviour?
So I think there's a few issues. I can't comment tell you specifically why not, but
Yep.
there are privacy issues, etc. So I mean, we can get a response on that from the compliance team.
So
I've seen all of these measures that you're talking about will have an impact. They're all cumulatively they'll make a difference, but there's no one single silver bullet that will shift the needle that much. And just to go back to the question about enforcement and how many prosecutions, we can get you those numbers from the compliance team. I don't think they're significant numbers. One of the challenges is they have a very high evidentiary level. You practically got to witness somebody doing the act and capture it. And then the next issue becomes once the fines, if you get that through the court and you put the infringement notice on them, will they pay? And how much do you pay to chase down and collect the debt? So that's why I think the government thinking is if we raise the fine significantly, but obviously that's a much higher bar. You're going to have to, I mean, the whole approach should be like a three strike type thing. You're going to try and re-educate people, get them not to do it. But ultimately, I agree, you need an enforcement sanction, and that is covered in the policy. That will be spelt out in the new policy.
Yeah. Well, and I don't think we're going to have luck taking people to court on this issue. But if people are aware that you go and dump stuff on the side of the road, you and your vehicle may be seen by hundreds of thousands of people on things like social media. That's a pretty good deterrent. But we don't do it. But that the signage we're speaking of, like that signage doesn't exist in so many areas, like around Cars Road, for example. There isn't visible signage around there, and I guess why not? So that's my 2 cents anyway. I think our communications need to be strongly worded, and we've got all this footage of people dumping stuff, and why we're doing nothing with that footage. Cheers.
All right, thank you, Andre. Tyler, do you still have anything else to add?
Just the last thing, Alec. Maybe trying to figure out what other policies we bolster to help align with this new one that you're looking at doing. You're probably already doing it, knowing you and the team. But there are other restrictions that other policies have, which could obviously make it extremely difficult to enforce these things. And I agree with Andre. I think we do need to get more down the enforcement route, because it's becoming significantly difficult to keep jumping on this stuff, and it's costing us millions and millions of dollars. And obviously it's costing the ratepayers millions for a bunch of a minority of people who think that it's all good to just chuck some rubbish out on the front and think it's all right. But just looking at broadening the scope with any other policies that this could align with in terms of enforcement and making it easier for community groups to be able to access some volunteerism, which would be fantastic.
Great. Thank you, Tyler. Luke.
One idea we could potentially look at exploring is accessing, if tenancy services allow accessing bond data, i.e. who lodges a new bond in areas where it's prolific fly tipping from students at end of tenancies, and sending them, welcome to the community letter, here are some resources for you. Here's some move out etiquette. If you need to throw things away, here's where to do it. Here's how to get some support and services. If you're at university, you can go here and talk to someone there, giving them the resources that they can think 12 months ahead of when they're actually going to be moving out. I don't know if that's accessing the bond data or potentially monitoring the electoral roll, looking for people moving in and out, but sending something that people very clearly know, hey, here's actually the process.
I like that.
Yeah.
Being more smart with our use of data.
And chuck the 20 grand thing on there as well.
Exactly.
Would you see that going through the landlords? If we could tap in, because it's the property owners we'll generally deal with. We won't necessarily have sight of the tenants.
So you deal with the tenants, because if we can get the access to the data either through tenancy services, through MB, if they allow publication of that data to local government, or the electoral roll when people move in and out, and proactively sending them. I mean, if you move address, sometimes your local member of parliament will be like, welcome to the electorate, that kind of messaging. And if we can send that really early on to set the correct expectations, and, as Andre said, mention, leaving a couch on the side of the road is actually a $20,000 fine, 5,000 now, but might be 20,000. Really putting that deterrent in place straight from day one, kind of thing.
Yeah, we can get advice on that. Yeah.
Good idea.
Right. All good.
Cool.
Hopefully you've got lots of
That was one last thing.
one final thing from March.
Sweeping. Do we do it regularly enough? Certainly one of Tyler's, bugbears in Riccarton has been that there's litter in the gutters and stuff that could be so easily done by a bit of extra street sweeping. Just to raise that tone of the neighbourhoods. Cool.
Right. Okay. Right. Thank you very much, Olivia and
Thank you, team.
Alex. I was going to call him Neil.
Tanya.
Just so.
Very good.
Great. Lovely. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Great. Now we move on to Community Parks Rolling Renewal Program. Welcome, Jackie. Right.
And Bradley's online.
And Bridie's online. Okay.
Hi, how are you?
Good.
You're the only one brave enough to face us all by yourself.
Yeah. With guilt pants on.
Well, Bridie's online.
Yeah, I'm here to support Bridie because Bridie wasn't sure if she was going to make it on time. So this is Bridie's presentation, so I'll let her lead and then just be her support.
Cool. Thanks very much, Jackie. Yeah, sorry I couldn't be there. I just had to come straight from the other community board meeting presenting the same thing. So I wasn't sure if I could get there, which I wouldn't have been able to get here in time. So thanks for allowing me to come online today. So Community Parks Rolling Renewal Program. This is the second or third time we've been done some rounds to the boards to present the program. What's a little bit different this year is that we've done compared to previous years is after we've gone through and had a look at the program and after you've had some time to sort of digest the information, we'll be coming back to you for some feedback. Any candidates that we've got identified in our program that you think would like to be brought forward, or any that aren't in the program at all that you would like us to consider, we're going to have a look at that. We'll provide you some information and then we'll come back again in the new term to seek your approval to that program. The reason why we're doing that this time, and we haven't previously done it, is because not so much in this board area, but in some other boards, not every board member has had an opportunity to see what that final program looks like. So this is just a way of sort of providing a little more transparency on the process for all of you elected members. So we'll get into the presentation. So what is a rolling renewal program? So as a capital expenditure, the rolling renewal program, we tend to go through and we replace all of our assets, most of our assets. The reason why we do that is we just need to maintain our levels of service. So what it doesn't cover is asset upgrades. So if we were going to come in and replace and replenish a garden border, we wouldn't go on and extend that garden border. We would be taking out what's there, what needs to be replaced, and replacing with new plantings and soil and so forth. Same with pathways. We will come through and we'll replace that pathway, but we're not necessarily going to go through and extend it to another area. So our budgets are set through the long-term plan process, and the funding's generally allocated by the asset type into the different park categories. So regional parks, they have their own building renewals fund. Community parks, we have our own green asset renewals, hard surface renewals, play space renewals. So if you could click through to that next slide, please. So how do we determine? It's one of the more prominent questions that I get. How do we know what we want to actually replace and what needs to be renewed? So first and foremost, we rely on our asset condition ratings. So all of our assets out in the ether, they all have asset condition ratings from rated between 1 to 5, 1 being very good, 5 being very poor. If we're doing things right, most of our assets should be in level 3 and above. They're usually renewed at the end of their life, but there are some other factors that we consider that we take into account when we set up our program. So the work that we've got set at the moment in this first current financial year, we can't make any changes there, but we can make changes further for future years because we're sort of locked into that scope at the moment for the current year. So if you just scroll down to the next slide, it'll just provide a bit more information about how we determine what's renewed. So these are the factors that we use to prioritise. So the asset condition rating that I already touched on, safety. Safety is another thing. If we've got a piece of playground equipment that it's not necessarily at the end of its life, but it's posing some sort of safety risk that we weren't once aware of, we'll come through and we'll have to prioritise that through the program. How critical is the asset to the wider network? So is it a piece of equipment that is the only thing in the parks network that we have in this one location? We need to obviously prioritise that one. The cost of renewal, is it feasible to actually renew this asset? We try to align our projects. So if we've got hard asset renewal in one location that needs to be done, and a couple of years yet later or a year later, we've got a playground that needs to be renewed, we'd try and align those. Maybe we'd pull one forward in the program and one back so that we can package up that work to get a better price. The asset condition, the age, and any sort of legal requirements, which is to a lesser degree that those requirements come into play in parks, but they are there. So if you scroll on to the next slide, please. So these are I've got a couple of examples about what a renewal is. So this is Washington Way Skate Park. It's a garden bed on the right-hand side. You can see there's just sort of bare patches and weeds, rogue plants, dead plants. And on the right-hand side, the team have come through. They've done some pruning. They've removed all the dead, weedy, horrible plants. They've actually put in some fresh soil. They've added new plants and mulch. So they've returned it back to its original state, making that a sort of a category 1 condition rating. But they haven't extended. So we haven't done anything more to the border. We just replenished it to take it back to that category 1 setting. And if you go to the next slide, so things get a little bit different with playground renewals. So we don't we don't go out for public consultation with renewals. The exception to this rule is playgrounds. So you guys, I know this board has seen Holly Whitaker a number of times to seek approval for some of the play space renewals that she's done in your area. So we try to go for like as much as possible. That isn't always as easy as said as done with playgrounds because playground equipment comes sort of in and out of fashion. So an example of this one, this is Aberley Park. I believe it's Aberley Park. In the top picture there, you've got a wee spinning apparatus with the yellow arms with the tires hanging off it. That's called a roctopus. It spins around in big circles. Kids sit on it and they really, really like it. Adults can use it too. It's a great piece of kit, but it's no longer available. They don't manufacture that anymore. So, yeah. It is really sad. I would love to have them still, but they just don't make them anymore. So in order to go for like, we look at what that piece of equipment once did. It spun around, it oscillated, so we need to try find a piece of equipment that does that same sort of thing, that sort of same function. Although it looks quite different, that little blue on the bottom picture after the playground has been renewed, we've got a piece of equipment, that blue triangular one. That's in replacement of that roctopus. So looks different, but kind of functions in a similar way. With playgrounds, although we go for like as much as possible, there are modern safety standards that we need to account for as well. So that's where things can look a little bit different and sometimes feel a bit different as well in those spaces. So that's kind of the outlier to renewals in terms of like for like. If you'd pull up the PDF spreadsheet that has your program on it, and if you'd like, I'm happy to take questions before we crack into that through the chair.
This one.
It is available on the big tin can for everyone.
Yeah.
Do you want on screen?
Yeah. Talk about it.
That's great, thank you. Right, so if I look at the top there, we've got our play and recreational facilities program. So that we run two distinct activities out of here. One is the play space renewals and one is play item renewals. So that top one, play space renewals, that's the entire playground, generally the entire playground. The program below that is just the individual assets. So one swing set, one digger set. You guys have a few things coming up this year, a couple in Hornby and mainly in Riccarton. You often see sometimes in the program they'll be split across 2 years. The first year is for planning and engagement. Second year is for delivery. So if we keep scrolling down, we get to our green asset renewal. Green asset renewal this year was delivered in-house by our new PGMO Parks and Gardens Maintenance Officers teams, which was pretty successful. So you'll see we've got quite a large program for the first 2 years. We will look to find some more candidates for you for FY 28 and 29. However, if you do know of some locations, that you'd really like to see done soon, by all means, please let us know and we can load up that program because the team are actually getting through those quite quickly. The HUD surface renewal. So the HUD surface renewal program addresses all of the car parks and pathway networks that run through parks. So not just asphalt, so it's asphalt seal, but also any pathways that are chip seal as well. Sometimes there's a split across a couple of years due to the size of them, but it doesn't look like you guys have any planned across a couple of years yet. If you could keep scrolling down. All right, sorry, my view is not what everyone else can see, sorry. So we do have a few other items that we do like to talk about. We'll just daylight with you. These are standalone projects, these ones that you see. The reason we just got them in here is because they do contain either green asset renewal, hard asset renewal, or a play space renewal, but they are larger standalone projects. And that's the end of the presentation. So I'm happy to take any questions from here.
Thank you, Bridie. I've got a few questions lined up here from Andre, Tyler, myself, and Mark. And Sarah, and then Luke. Hang on. Sarah, and then Luke. Right. Start up with Andre, please.
Hey, thanks very much, Bridie. Great stuff. Just a question on the screen while we're here. The Cars Reserve Club relocation, what's actually being done on that in this financial year?
Yeah, so the reason why that one's in there, so the planning team still have that one sitting with them. I spoke to the planning manager today about that because I thought this might actually Jackie identified that, thought it might be raised. So they're hoping to get a report to you by the end of this calendar year with the next steps. Yeah.
Cool, thank you.
But I don't know the details, sorry.
Yeah, no, all cool. And just on the first community, the green asset renewals in Halswell, I guess I'm seeing here Halswell Domain in 28. I just sort of see that as likely more of a priority than the other 6 in 26 and 27. So I'm just sort of because there's continual issues around playing surfaces around Halswell Domain. So I guess just my concern is that we are investing in green asset renewals and other parks before that.
Okay, yep. Often the green asset renewals it largely accounts for gardens. Sports fields are their own standalone project.
Okay, so none of them would be captured under this?
The sports field playing surface won't be captured under this.
Okay, cool. All right. I withdraw my concerns. Thank you very much. Nice one.
All right. Thank you, Andre. I've got Tyler next.
Hey, Bridie. I've just got a question about Sockburn Park. In the annual plan 23-24, I think, that I made sure that it was noted that it came off the program budget and had $500,000 applied to it. Can we confirm that Sockburn Park is due for a renewal within this program?
For what? So this program is broken down into distinct asset categories.
Okay.
So if you could define your question a little as to what asset particularly, is it the playground that's there, or maybe a half basketball court? I'm aware there are some planning going on with that site. So if we could define it a bit, I can probably provide a better answer.
No worries. I believe it's all three. I think it's due for a full renewal, but there's been quite significant asbestos problems within it. And the question that I've got, maybe you can take it offline, is I'm really hoping that the removal of the barbed wire fence, the fence that wrapped around, the cage fence that wrapped around Sockburn Park on the Taikoro Ave side, and the removal of the baby pool didn't actually apply to that budget. I'm really hoping that didn't happen, but I just wanted to confirm that. Maybe the team could note that down.
Yeah, if the governance team can push that back through to our planning team, that would be helpful to get you that answer.
Sweet. I think it's a $500,000 budget. I just wanted to make sure that it's still on the program. It might not be within this. Yep. But all in all, really love the phasing that you've done here. All of those parks are outdated and they do need a good zhuzh up. So I appreciate that.
Great.
I can actually add to that. We've got that timing wise in FY 26, 27 and 28. So it is on budget as a project.
Great. Awesome.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Tyler.
Thanks.
My turn. I've got a question, Bridie, on specifically Westlake Reserve, the green asset renewal. I see it's up on 28. I was a regular user of Westlake Reserve until this past year, and I became too busy. But I don't know what green assets we have there, but I have witnessed people foraging in the area. What policy do we have about it?
So if they're foraging, that could be usually we strike that when people are foraging fruit trees. I don't believe we have any, or sometimes nut trees is quite common as well with some communities.
The people I see were picking something like on the grass near the lake. So it's on the ground. So
mushrooms,
not mushrooms, but some sort of probably, I don't know. They said they eat it. Different culture, so I don't want to specify. But yes, they put them in bags. They collect a lot of it.
Watercress.
Watercress. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Possibly watercress.
It's quite possible.
Yeah.
Right.
And we don't have any specific policies around that. People are.
So they're allowed
as long as you're not
Yes.
damaging other assets, we don't discourage people from foraging.
Okay. All right. Cool. That's all my question. Thank you. Mark.
Thank you. Might start with a meaty one. Why not? Cole Park contaminated areas that are fenced off. I noticed Cole Park's showing in FY 28 for gardens. Does that sort of hint at the idea of those contaminated areas being dealt with and sort of do something meaningful?
Yeah, I think it would be sensible to address those through this program, because that is actually a green asset, all that contaminated land. So yeah, that is something that could be addressed through this renewal program.
Yep. I had an interesting conversation with a lady from Bernardo's Early Childhood Centre this week, and they've got something like 167, I think she said, nearly 170 native plants that have been donated to them by Trees for Canterbury, and they're looking for somewhere to plant them. And I did mention to her that absolutely, just someone like yourself around community parks, Kyle Park could be an interesting opportunity to land some native plants that they've got to put into use. Being handy to their early childhood centre on Waterloo Road, it might be quite a useful one to do a community planting effort with.
Yes, if you could send her details through, get those details to the governance team to me,
Yep.
I can put them in touch with one of our community partnership rangers who can help them execute planting day.
Yep, cool. Okay, and onwards, Vickery's Reserve, which is sort of in the Hornby/Halswell border area. There's some quite dated playground equipment in there. I think I'd heard that was on some program somewhere for renewal. Whether we could check on that one. Also, another one that's come up recently was Denton Park. There's some quite dated
trees.
Well, there's lots of trees planted in there, but there's also a play swing set in the back of it, which locals are certainly asking, is that on the cards for renewal as well?
Okay, I'm not seeing on the program at the moment, but if we could get that, that's exactly the type of information I'm after, though. So, what we can do, so if through the governance team, if I could get that, then I can go and have a look and get someone to report back, either a project manager or a ranger, say yes, especially when you look at it against the condition of the other assets that we've got to replace. I just need to make sure that the information I give you, I can't say yes, we'll definitely do it.
No.
And then it be at the expense of something else that maybe perhaps is in worse condition. You don't actually have oversight over that.
Yep. And I do notice the Templeton Domain place-based renewal is in there, which is good, FY 26 and 27. The Templeton Residents Association are quite keen, I think, to partner with the team on that renewal, see if they can't add some budget and do some little bit extra. So that might be something for us to keep in mind as that one starts to materialise. And then with the Waikola Park Skate Park renewal, when we had that approval through our board, there was talk around swings being removed from the skate park area, and there was some community deputation to that meeting around what are the possibilities of either leaving those swings in place or getting something in replacement skate park renewal happens. So I guess we'll leave that in your thought process and just make sure we don't lose sight of that one. It came through the deputation.
Yep, thank you.
Very good.
All right, thank you, Mark. So next up we will have, I have 4 others, Sarah, Luke, Helen, and then Tyler. So Sarah, please.
Hi, Bridie. Just on Templeton Domain, I noticed that it's in the garden, in the green asset, and it's missing hard surface renewals, footpaths and car parks, and there's a couple of us that were out there just when it was raining a couple of weeks ago, and the car park is abysmal. It's got potholes and all over it. It's not a functioning car park because of it.
Okay. When we come through and do the scoping of that place-based renewal, which will take place this year, we can have a look at the hard surfaces as well.
That'd be good.
Yeah.
So do you do that with all of these areas, or?
A lot of them, if they've got these larger at the bottom of this program, the individual projects containing play spaces, green or hard asset renewals, those are larger projects, and we tend to try be a little bit broad with them.
Okay.
Because they do have larger budgets and they're sort of capturing more than just one distinct activity.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Sarah. Luke.
Hi there. I just have a question around the Sockburn Service Centre, not Sockburn Park. It is technically a reserve, and there was supposed to be a plan to daylight the stream. I'm not sure if that's a part of your team or another team responsible for that.
Yeah, not one that I'm aware of, sorry.
Okay, so there's no plans to also do anything with that as a part of this project or future projects?
So this is, it's probably Three Waters, and this is just renewal of existing parks assets, not development.
Okay, that's cool. Thank you.
Thank you, Luke. I've got Helen next, and then Tyler and Mark again. Okay, Helen, go ahead, please. If you can please unmute.
Yes, I just wanted to support Tyler on the Sockburn Park. It had problems during the earthquake, but had been up till then a functioning park. So we're a long time down from the earthquake, and I think it's important because this area is getting intensified potentially. Just on that Sockburn Service Centre, I'd like a report on that, how staff can perhaps do that But my understanding is we shouldn't be on selling that bit of land because it could go back to the Crown. It's one of these funny pieces of land.
Right, Helen, that's not part of this topic.
No, but well,
we'll talk about it offline with staff.
Yes,
that's okay.
I'll send a question through now about it. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Helen. Okay, Tyler, please.
Thanks. Alan was also talking about the Three Waters property, and I've got a question about that stuff because you've got Three Waters assets and parks assets, but there are also waterways / what they call reserves, which require renewals too. How does the community get involved on that side of things? I'm particularly about a small reserve. It is a reserve, but I think it's under the Three Waters unit, which has significant issues. How do we get parks and Three Waters to coordinate things along that line, particularly with green renewals, green asset renewals?
Yeah, it comes generally back down to the asset owner. So if we can identify if it's at parks, sometimes you have Three Water assets maintained by parks. It's quite common. We do a lot of the green maintenance, so often things look like a park and we maintain them because, well, why not? We do it all over the place, you know.
Yeah.
But it does come back down to that asset owner, and the Three Waters team do have staff that do a lot of that work with the community now.
Yep.
And I've forgotten their names. I'm sorry, but I can give them to the governance team to pass on any community connections that they might like to help develop some of those sites.
Oh, that'd be great. I think that's one part that's missing in terms of the consultation with not only just reserves, but parks, but also Three Waters renewals. And just for the governance team, I'm going to ask one more quick question. But for the governance team, it is the reserve island stream between Island Park Place and Athol Terrace. There's a bit of a rat infestation in there, and the trees are a bit hectic there, but people do use that space for a bit of downtime. So I just wanted to give that to governance staff offline. The next one is around consultation for hard renewals. And I've had quite a bit of feedback in regards to Harrington Park and the quality of the basketball hoop at Harrington Park. And I've been talking to Roo pretty closely about this. He's been amazing, by the way. But I'm wondering if the team might be able to consult a bit further around the kind of hard infrastructure like half courts and basketball hoops, which would be user friendly. The reason why I say that is because we have the cricket area in Harrington Park, the strip, which is great. Could do with an upgrade, and also the Harrington Park half court. The problem is it's not a regulation size 3-point line. The free throw line is also not regulation, and then the hoop is also not user friendly. I've been talking to Roo about that quite significantly, but it would be good to see if we can get some proper consultation out to the community around what kind of basketball hoop they'd like, what kind of paint would they like on the surface to sort of bring them more into the project, because we do that with trees. But that's something that I'd love to look at.
Yes, we when we do some of the half courts, we have actually spoken to can't remember the organisation. It might just be Basketball NZ for feedback and just some guidance. So that's something we can definitely look at because we do have a couple of half court renewals coming up. The basketball hoop thing, we are trialing different hoops at the moment. We're having trouble getting some of them because some of the backboards aren't regulation.
Yeah.
So we're just waiting on that order for more of them because we're going to trial them in about 6 different locations around the city to see how they go.
You guys are so good.
They're just the ones that they actually move. They're not just like throwing a basketball at a steel rim all the time. So
and the same cost, right?
Yeah.
Ish.
Ish. Yep. Yeah. No, we found some funding to trial them. So
great.
Don't have to worry about the money at the moment.
Thanks, Bridie. Thank you so much.
No problem.
Thank you, Tyler. Last, I think we've got Well, we've got Mark and then I think Helen. No,
fine.
she's not, she's gone. Mark.
Thank you. So another couple of things came to mind while we were going through there. The car park at Denton Park. I've certainly asked some questions from the rugby club in the last week or two. And I think that was being looked at. So I don't know whether you're involved with that, Bridie, or whether that's someone else in council, but it'd be good to get an update on the hard surface in that car park, and with that, these line marking and the surface condition. Is a hard surface, because that's a bit of a problem to the rugby club in Denton Park.
Yes, we do have a project manager out to have a look at that following your request.
Cool, excellent. Look forward to seeing the reply when it comes in time. The other one that is Leslie Park is down as a green asset renewals. Is that just sort of the garden beds, or is that perhaps going even as significant as trees in Leslie Park? Because I've had some locals in Foreman Road there talk to me about the trees that are in Leslie Park there, and the fact that they're fouling streets and houses, and with their needles being disseminating all over the place. So does that green asset renewal sort of stem into that?
No, this is just specific for, trees are managed through a different team and within parks, and it has its own maintenance schedule and contract through Tree Tech. So the green asset renewal here is just for gardens.
Cool. And with Leslie Park as well, there's a playground in there which I think is perhaps getting a bit dated as well. So whether that's something, like Denton Park's playground, have a bit of an assessment of it and see whether that needs to, slot up the program anyway. That'd be good.
Okay.
That's me.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Mark. I think that's all the questions that we have. I think from here on, staff will investigate the proposed changes or suggestions.
Before that, so we've been noting what you've commented tonight, but you have until next Friday if you have any other changes, or you have a better look at the programming and the phasing, and you want to swap, or that you see more that are missing, then send them through to myself and Faye
by September 5,
the next Friday, and then we'll pass it on to staff.
Yes.
So if we don't hear anything by email, then it'll just be what's been commented on tonight.
So that's on September 5, in addition to what was mentioned already today. So other than that, and then staff will present a decision report to the community board early in the new term. Okay, all good? All right, thank you very much, Jackie and Bridie.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tim.
Thank you. Now we move on to Eileen and Marie. Welcome. And it's about community governance team update. Right.
Kia ora koutou. So this is an update on the Better Off funding. So last year the board allocated grants to 10 organisations for 13 projects under the Better Off Fund. Of those 13 projects, 5 have been completed, 7 are underway, and 1's not yet started. So just on the one that's not yet started, we've received the return of the grant. So it's $30,000 from Te Korawaia All Grannies. It was for the establishment of community gardens out in Hornby and for tangi packs. So obviously no longer going ahead. A replacement project run by Te Whare Awhero for an urban farm out in Hornby has been proposed for that funding instead.
Cool.
So we'll bring you a report for your decision at the next board meeting on that replacement project. And we'll provide you a full report as well at the next meeting on the full summary of the Better Off funding. So all the ones underway and the completed ones as well.
But if you've got any questions on any of them, where they're at, just right now it's a good opportunity for us to formally let you know about some of them.
So we got Sarah.
So can you just go through them all just to re-jog all those? Yeah.
Jog your memory.
Okay.
Sorry to put you on the spot.
While they pull that up, I guess the reason we wanted to update is because it has been a fast turnaround from receiving that money back and wanting to bring the current board the decision to reallocate that money. So that will be ready for the next meeting, but we just wanted to tell you because you'll have a decision report. But you didn't actually know that money had been returned. So,
And is that because 151? Because it was proposed? No, where was it proposed?
no, the organisation just is not placed to deliver on those projects and return the
So-
money at the moment.
Will it be for the same amount for the replacement project?
And it's the proposed Hornby's
Hornby
High.
Yeah, be in partnership with Hornby High
Yeah.
School.
Okay.
A very similar kaupapa,
Yes.
very similar area, it's almost a block over.
Great concept.
So the organisations or the projects, the completed ones are the Upper Riccarton War Memorial Library, patrol car and operational costs for Halswell, Hornby Community Patrol car, gazebo replacement for the Lions Club, Halswell, reducing barriers learning to swim, that was for the Whananui Amateur Swimming Club. The ones that are underway are Waikoa Park Playground, Halswell Youth Activations, Halswell War Memorial Improvements, Riccarton Bush and Heartland Project, the Mobile Youth Centre in Riccarton, the Matatiki Nature Play Space, the Halswell Basketball Court by Southwest Sport and Rec Club.
And the total amount that we had to spend, was it
500,000.
Yeah. Cool. Great, because that was quite early in the term, wasn't it, that we approved all of that and then it's all a lot of it.
Last year, no.
It started,
last year.
started at the end of 2023.
Quick turnaround.
Did a lot of them last year. The first one I think that you did was the War Memorial one at the end of 2022.
Yeah. Cool.
Great work on the Memorial Park, by the way.
Cheers. Well done.
Very good.
And a fantastic opening you guys put on as well.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And a great water fountain in there.
Yes, very good water fountain.
Great. Anything else? Anybody on Zoom has any questions? No? Right. Okay, cool. Thank you. We'll wait for the report on the next meeting at the next.
We
meeting.
discussed roughly an email, something about Picton Ave.
We won't do that online.
Cool.
Yeah.
A little bit cryptic at that.
Are we going to do guard?
We're not going to do that online.
Not online, okay.
We're gonna close the
All right, okay, yes, now we are finishing our final info session for this term. Thank you, everybody, for coming over and being on Zoom, and we'll see you at the next meeting. Thanks.
Thank you.
Close.